Hello and welcome to Samsung Now, where we look at the latest from Samsung in what we call user case reviews. Now this is where I personally own the item and I'm using it and have used it day to day for a while. Now by doing so, I can then explain to you based on real world experience what I expected, what I discovered, liked and disliked, and whether or not I'm going to keep it. Now it's more of a real world review rather than what we see only too often, where the reviewers had the item maybe for a few hours, maybe a day, and because they're hungry for the rush on YouTube, they post a review having really only used the item for a short while. So I won't be doing that. So this is where you need to be to get an unbiased, real world user case review. Everyone loves fingers. So please subscribe. And also share the love too, however you want to share it. So Samsung DeX is being hailed by Samsung as a desktop replacement when used in conjunction with one of these things, an S8 or an S8 Plus, and you connect your phone to the puck-like device, which is also connected to a monitor, keyboard and mouse. The keyboard and mouse can be Bluetooth, such as my case here, and the internet connection can either be through your Wi-Fi on your phone or through the Ethernet, which you can plug in at the back of the device. Once the phone is slotted into place, the S8 goes blank and a windowed PC-like version of Android appears on the monitor. Now existing apps that were open remain open on screen too, but only a handful really are designed to be to use the screen real estate that you now have. Other apps, most apps for that matter, remain in the standard phone portrait format. And in some cases, some may not work as intended. And in fact, there is a small warning notice when an app is not fully DeX supported is opened. Perhaps the coolest feature overall is the hot swapping aspect. What I really needed, and I believe most people that would consider the DeX like me would consider the device based on web surfing, email, basic Microsoft Office tasks, writing, etc. The ability to watch YouTube and get my email and my social media, perhaps some basic photo correction, all the basic things that anyone would need a really simple PC for. The more complex things, of course, like video editing, recording, music and so on, I use my laptop for, but I did want something that was simple, quick and easy to use and immediate, that I could sort of swap from a mobile to PC and back without much delay and faffing. Now I'm fully aware that this is generation 1 from Samsung, and even a huge corporation like Samsung don't get everything right. Huge exploding batteries, anyone? So it's important to have a level of expectation on what this could and couldn't do. And there wasn't really a great deal of information on the finer aspects of what DeX could do. So for me, and I imagine for some, also it was actually a leap of faith. However, unlike many, I imagined that purchase the Samsung S8 or S8 Plus, I did mainly because of the DeX. And this is what really sold me on the S8. And in fact makes me wonder how many others out there are just like me in that respect. So comment below as to what made you buy the S8 and if you ever considered the DeX, and if you have it, what do you think of it? Now the first immediate wow factor is the hot swapping in and out of the DeX. It's cool, it's pretty quick and works very well. I sort of liken it really to how the Nintendo Switch works. It's somehow like that. It's moved from one state to another really, really quickly. Now the layout of the screen is nice, clear, familiar with many aspects of Android and the TouchWiz interface coming over. The apps that have been modified to work with DeX do well, mostly, but a little more on that in a moment. But overall, Word, Photos and the browser work fine. Now the feel of the OS on a full screen display works most of the time. But items are easy to get to predominantly, and the apps that are developed, tweaked to work with DeX, do so pretty well. Those that do not, well, they may maintain their aspect ratio and format and mostly work okay. You kind of have to imagine that your mouse is your finger. Now it's good to be able to use some of the chat apps that I use as well. They remain in the same same formatting, but I just simply type and it saves an awful lot of time. Now all the apps and notifications work well too. I'm constantly updated as to who's messaging me, called me or emailed, and these notifications are clear and well presented. Lag from the keyboard and mouse is very little, hardly noticeable really. The mouse moves as expected and I'm not waiting for anything to catch up at any point. I feel also that those that are not familiar with PC OS, such as Windows or Apple OS, but were familiar with their phone's OS, and Android as a whole, would do well with this. And it would be something that perhaps Samsung could aim the DeX device at. But then one wonders, given the need for a Samsung S8 to use it and the cost of such a device, and the chances that the person will have a laptop at least, so what did I dislike? Well, this is where things really fall down a little. First of all, seating the phone into a USB-C connector isn't easy. I would have liked to have seen some kind of means where the phone is simply guided in. At present, I have to really fiddle around to make sure that the phone is in line with the connector. My concern really is that it will scratch the metal the metal that surrounds the phone and around the USB socket on the phone. The image on screen isn't great. I'm using a Samsung 27-inch monitor and the quality isn't ideal. There appears to be some distortion in some of the apps where the items appear a little stretched rather than specifically designed for the screen real estate. The text on the screen and icons and images suffer from aliasing. Hopefully this will be sorted in an update, but it's not particularly clear or as sharp as it should be, even for just a 1080p display. Big issues, and this is an ongoing one. There's no sound on my device. I don't know whether this is with all DeX devices, but the sound from my Samsung S8 is not being passed through the HDMI to the monitor. I'm still trying to get this fixed. In fact, I've been told by Samsung to get this one replaced, and I've been in touch with Samsung Tech to have a look at it. Now, a word on their tech support. Here with the DeX. The first guy I chatted to online about this with Samsung in the UK didn't even know what this was. This I found alarming, given that it's a new Samsung key peripheral for the S8. After I questioned him further, he sort of backtracked and said, yes, of course, I know what the DeX is, but there is no technical support detail on that just yet. I then tried technical support in the US and pretended I was in the US using a VPN. Then they were kind of helpful but still didn't fix the issue, and instead ended up changing a million settings on my phone, which resulted in me having to reset the phone and start all over. I wasn't happy about that, considering I wasn't told that's what was going to happen. Now, finally, I got a call session for a tech guy to take control of my phone. Whilst Index this was booked and arranged with a 3-hour window. I wait and wait some more. At the time agreed, and then nothing. Then I call next day asking me to rebook. I do, and as I am preparing the script for this, I am waiting for yet another call. Come on Samsung, sort it out. You don't release a product held as a PC replacement when you can't get one of the key aspects of what you would want from a PC to work. Sound, yes. It's simple. Really just sound from my S8 to the monitor rather than just sound coming from my S8. So there are apps that are designed for the DeX, but they are just okay in themselves and need work. For example, Chrome is okay, but the tabs function is really clunky and cluttered. Still requires you to sort of drag tabs around to see them, and it's not really apparent how you do that. It's somewhat different to how it is actually on the phone. Tabs also don't update on their own, so unless you refresh the tab, you remain in a cached version on that page. Any plugins that you had on Chrome and registered to your Google account will not be installed on Chrome, on the Chrome DeX version, which is understandable, I guess. A bit of a leap, but it would be nice. The fact that I simply can't make a quick call using my phone with Index, and this is a real frustration which I discovered later. I had to hunt around for the app and couldn't find it, and it was only when someone called me did it pop up, and then I left it up and around so I could end up calling someone. But the fact that there isn't an icon, like a phone icon, that gives me access to my phone immediately, or to text someone more very quickly and easily, seems a huge oversight and incredibly annoying given how easy it would have been to do. More so the fact that Samsung go at length in their demos of accepting calls and accepting texts and replying to them. They don't show you actually them making a call in the first place or sending a text. Now we know why. So, you know, it would have been easy for them to do, but it's a shame they didn't. There's no immediate means of being able to print easily. I can't simply connect a printer to the device and expect it to work with a driver. I'm still not too sure how I would print using an existing USB printer. It simply seems to be only if your printer is a Wi-Fi printer or a Bluetooth one that's already connected to your phone. So I really don't know how that works. There doesn't seem to be any room allowed for a protected case also whatsoever, which means you have to take your existing case off, regardless of whether it's a Samsung one or not, and then before you put it into the DeX device. The DeX Puck device, once plugged in and not having a phone in situ, is kind of light, and the cables tend to pull it off balance. It's bad when the phone is in place, but still, it could have been heavier. Also the cost, it's £150 in the UK. Sometimes Amazon are discounting it to £130. It's a lot of money to spend on a peripheral. The fact that the S8 has an amazing screen but goes blank once connected and there's no updates, nothing. It seems like a real waste to have the S8's amazing screen to have it just turn off completely whilst it's connected to the DeX. It would have been nice to have the S8 do something. Now the hopes for my future, well, a lot of the issues I've encountered, of course, could perhaps be sorted with some updates, and hopefully that will happen, but I wonder how many updates this will actually get. There is a need for more apps, many more apps that work well with DeX. So far there are only few and far between and basic in some regard. Like any hardware like this, to get people sold on it, it needs to be compelling to buy. And at the moment, were it not for Office, and they are mobile versions, it would be a no-go really. A better array of key apps too, email program, Chrome improved, and management of use of existing apps that are not DeX supported. Perhaps some kind of virtual finger that you can use on your existing screen on the S8 whilst it's connected to the DeX, that allows you to control an app that's not supported by DeX, which would be more natural. And make the S8 do something once it's connected to the device. Having it just go blank is dull and a wasted opportunity for having the phone there. Yes, all the updates and more happen on screen, but just like the always on screen that when we're not using the S8, perhaps have something like that, but designed specifically when it's used with the DeX. Now if you want people to adopt this device, Samsung, you're going to have to make it an awful lot cheaper. I paid 150 quid, which I know is top dollar for this. You can get it for 120, 130. It's a lot of money to ask people to just sort of take a leap of faith on. So fix the way the S8 connects with the DeX too, and make the device more solid and heavier. And whilst we're at it, when I'm not using the DeX and it tap folds away, make this a wireless charger. Just make it not do anything. Why do you not include also a power supply cable and a power supply unit with it? I'm being forced to use the one from my phone to plug into the DeX. So come on, Samsung, don't be stingy here. Again, at so many wasted opportunities that are pretty simple. Why force me either to buy a new USB plug cable and then use an existing one with the phone and then not make the DeX a wireless charger too is crazy in my eyes, and wouldn't have cost you guys much to include. Talking of which, the charger is actually, the wireless charger is 50 quid. This is what this needs to be at. This needs to be 50 quid. And if you want people to buy it, that's the price it needs to be, and make it wireless charging too. Then you'll get more people adopting it. So will I keep it? Yeah, but in the hope of some updates to correct some of the display issues and sound issues which could and hopefully should be updated through software updates. It does do what I want and hoped for, albeit not quite as fluid and as well developed as I'd hoped, but you know, it's quick, it's usable and easy. I don't think perhaps it's worth 150 quid. 50 quid, yeah, I would have bitten their arm off, but it really needs to come down. And given I've already bought it and it's going, you know, it's kind of doing what I want it to do aside some sort of quite clear caveats, So, you know, overall it's doing what I hoped it would. My worry is that from Samsung this is more of a test product, and that traction would be hard for them to find given its price of entry. Not just the cost of the device, but the cost of the S8 too, as well as a monitor and keyboard and mouse if not already acquired. And really chances are if you already have these, you have a PC, so it makes me wonder who exactly it's aimed at. My purpose really was to make things less cluttered as possible, but the charger, the USB and the HDMI cable and so on, there's still pretty sort of straggly wires everywhere. So there also appears to be some shocking missteps, awkward design. It's awkward to slide the S8 into it without just fiddling. You know, it's confusing in what you can and can't connect to the USB ports, and the fact that they don't include a charger with the device, forcing me to use the one from the S8, is just simply rude. So for now it works, but just not great. Some of the issues are quite obvious, aliasing and the sound not coming through, being passed through on HDMI. And others are more subtle, but there are quickly found from using the device for a while. So for now, I would give the DeX a 6 out of 10. It's kind of a buy it if you're curious and accept its limitations, but perhaps, you know, if an update or the next generation, it would be a more interesting and compelling product. But I do worry who it's really aimed at. So that's the DeX. Ta-da! If you liked this review, if you like me chatting at the camera, and I do run on a script because otherwise I would just meander all over the place, so don't sort of freak out because I'm kind of looking slightly past the camera because my auto cue is just beyond it. But if you liked the review, you know, please subscribe, and I would love any comments. You know, you can comment as to what you think of the DeX, what your thoughts are, what as Samsung are really trying to do with the DeX, because it does seem somewhat confusing. What you think of the S8? What would make you buy a DeX? You know, you've got an S8, you've got a PC. What would Samsung really need to do to make you buy one of these? You know, would it need to be 50 quid, $50, and have a wireless charger built into the top? Because that's a massive oversight. You know, I don't know. But for me, you know, I've already bought it. I kind of wanted to use it for very sort of quick and easy access to basic things. So, you know, it's pretty good. So if you like the review, you like me wittering on, and you agree or disagree with what I said, comment, say whatever you like. I'll try and reply to as many as possible. And don't forget to share the review too. That would be really, really appreciated. Our next review is going to be what is it going to be? It's the Gear VR. It's the new one, the one with the puck. So I'll be reviewing that. I'm in two minds as to whether I'm going to review the S8 or not. So many people have kind of done that and done a much better job than I could ever do. So I might leave that and leave it to things that I have got that perhaps are a little bit more, sort of more left field, I guess. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and thanks again. Bye-bye. I set the hedge on fire today, outside. I was having a bonfire and it got out of hand. Thought I was going to have to call the fire brigade. Oops. Okay,